Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I came to you with another topic of snoring and obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. Actually, I had already presented it in front of my classmates in my third prof, but I brought it here to share with everyone. So, going into the topic snoring and obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, we need to learn a few basic general terms about this topic. So, what are they? They are sleep apnea. It is cessation of breathing for 10 seconds or more during sleep. Usually, the airflow is measured at the tip of the nose. Okay. Now, what is apnea index? It is the episodes of apnea during 1 hour of sleep. Is calculated as apnea index. What is hypopnea? It is a drop of 50% airflow associated with EEG, electroencephalography, defined arousal, or 4% drop in oxygen saturation. What is RDI or AHI? RDI is nothing but respiratory depression index or apnea hypopnea index. Apnea and hypopnea episodes during 1 hour of sleep. Less than 5 is considered normal. So, what is the severity of apnea based on the respiratory depression index RDI? What is it? If it is 5 to 14 episodes, it is mild condition. If it is 5 to 29 episodes, it's moderate. If it is greater than or equal to 30 episodes, it's severe. What is arousal? It's the transient awakening from sleep. What is arousal index? It is the number of arousal during 1 hour of sleep. That is less than 4 is considered normal. Okay. What is about sleep efficiency? It is the minimum minutes of time spent of sleep divided by minutes in bed after lights are turned off. So this is sleep efficiency is calculated by this formula. So now going into sleep disordered breathing, what is sleep disordered breathing? It encompasses primary snoring, upper airway resistance syndrome, obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, obesity hypoventilation syndrome, also called as Pickwickian syndrome, and sleep disordered breathing, which means apnea hypopnea index AHI should be less than or equal to or greater than 5 per hour of sleep. Then it's called sleep disordered breathing. So, all around, about 9% women and 24% men of age group 30 to 60 years will have sleep disordered breathing on an average. So, I had told about upper airway resistance syndrome. What it is? It is a sleep disorder characterized by the narrowing of the airway that can cause disruptions to the sleep. And the symptoms the patient possesses are fatigue, sleepiness, chronic insomnia, and difficulty concentrating and unrefreshing sleep. So, this is about that. So, how it can be cured? It can be cured by lifestyle changes, surgical method, or continuous positive airway pressure therapy. So, we can control with these treatment. And next, what is obesity hypoventilation syndrome, Pickwickian syndrome? So, obesity hypoventilation syndrome is defined as the combination of obesity and an increased blood carbon dioxide level during the day that is not attributable to another cause of excessively slow or shallow breathing. So, is a condition in which severely overweight people fail to breathe rapidly or deeply enough, resulting in low oxygen level and high blood carbon dioxide levels. The syndrome is often associated with obstructive sleep apnea, which causes periods of absent or reduced breathing in sleep, resulting in many partial awakenings during the night and sleepiness during the day. So, what is the treatment for this? The most effective treatment is weight loss, but this may require bariatric surgery to achieve. So, and we can also cure this with non-invasive positive airway pressure PAP, usually in the form of continuous positive airway pressure at night. Okay, this is about Pickwickian syndrome. So, about obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, we'll discuss later. Okay, now coming to snoring. What is snoring? As we know, like our relatives, at our home, many people snore. So, what is about snoring? Snoring is nothing but it's a noisy breathing, which is a rough, rattling, inspiratory noise, is produced by vibration of pendulous soft palate or occasionally of vocal cords during sleep. So, we have primary snoring, in which apnea hypopnea index will be less than 5 events per hour of sleep, and upper airway resistance syndrome. In this, apnea hypopnea index will be less than 5 events per hour and elevated arousal index greater than 5 times per hour. Sound as loud as 90 decibels has been recorded during snoring. Okay, coming to the etiology of snoring. So, what is the most common etiology in children? It is adenotonsillar hypertrophy. And coming to the adults, the etiology depends upon the site. It varies depending upon the location of the site. So, if it is in the nose or nasopharynx, then the etiology might be septal deviation, turbinate hypertrophy, nasal valve collapse, nasal polypi, or tumors. If it is in the oral cavity or oropharynx, it is due to elongated soft palate and uvula, tonsillar enlargement, macroglossia, trypanognatha, and large base of the tongue or its tumor. If it is in the larynx and laryngopharynx, then it is laryngeal stenosis or omega-shaped epiglottis. And other causes might be like obesity, as I already told about Pickwickian syndrome, where obesity is the main cause in it, and thick neck with collar size exceeding 42 centimeters in male and 37.5 centimeters in female. So, on conclusion, what are the common sites here? They are soft palate, tonsillar pillar, or hypopharynx. So, what's the mechanism of snoring? So, before going to mechanism, what the symptoms patient might have? So, he might have excessive daytime sleepiness, morning headaches, general fatigue, memory loss, irritability and depression, decreased libido, and increased risk of road accidents. So, knowing about this mechanism, I'm going to show a short video. Watch it, you'll understand. See, this is the normal breathing, and this is the snoring partial obstructed of the airway, and this is OSA, complete obstruction of the airway. So, this mechanism will be understood in the following video. Watch it.
Snoring and sleep apnea. In normal breathing, air enters the nostrils and goes through the throat and the trachea to the lungs. In people who snore, this airway is partially obstructed by excess tissue of the throat, such as large tonsils, large soft palate, or tongue. Another common cause of obstruction is the dropping of the tongue into the throat due to over-relaxation of tongue muscles during sleep. Air currents competing through narrow spaces in the throat cause the soft palate, essentially a piece of soft tissue hanging in the throat, to vibrate. This vibration is the source of the noise we hear when someone is snoring. Sleep apnea happens when the airway is completely obstructed. No air can go through and the person stops breathing. This cessation of breathing triggers the brain to respond by waking up the person just enough to take a breath. This repeats itself again and again during the course of the night and may result in sleep deprivation. Snoring and mild sleep apnea may be treated with the mandibular advancement device. This device is designed to move the lower jaw and the tongue slightly forward and thus making the space in the back of the throat larger.
Okay, so you watched the video and hope you understood better by watching the video. So now coming to snoring spouse syndrome, or also called as spouse arousal syndrome. What it is? So it's nothing but the non-snoring partner may wake up many times an hour and lose about 2 hours of sleep. So it's very annoying. So this is called snoring spouse syndrome. So this nighttime annoyance can disrupt relations because of snoring. This is about all about this syndrome. And next, okay. So how do we stop this? How to stop snoring? So there are certain lifestyle modifications to stop this snoring. So they are adopting to athletic lifestyles or adopting to a regular exercise daily and weight loss to maintain balanced weight, and we should avoid sedatives, for example tranquilizers, sleeping pills, antihistamines, and cough suppressants at bedtime. And we need to avoid alcoholic drinks and heavy dinner before 3 to 4 hours of sleep. of retiring to the bed and avoid getting overtired, establish regular sleeping patterns, sleep sideways rather than a back, and raise the head end of the bed by 4 degrees. So these are the lifestyle modifications. We can stop snoring. Okay, now coming to sleep apnea. It's of three types. It's obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, which is the most common type, and central sleep apnea and mixed sleep apnea. What is central sleep apnea? It is completely depends upon the central respiratory centers. Okay, so the normal mechanical muscular relaxations and contractions will be normal. Completely depends upon the central nervous system. Okay, so now coming to obstructing sleep apnea. What is it? It is a transient upper airway obstruction results in intermittent cessation of airflow or breathing, though there is a normal respiratory effort. So, apnea hypopnea index here will be equal to or greater than 5 events per hour of sleep. And during the episodes of oxyhemoglobin desaturation becomes less than 90% here. So, what is the pathophysiology? So, this picture explains beautifully about the pathophysiology of the obstructive sleep apnea. Okay, usually a narrowed upper airway is a very common among obstructive sleep apnea patients and is usually in adults due to non-specific factors such as fat deposition in the neck or abnormal bony morphology of the upper airway. So functional impairment of the upper airway dilating muscles is particularly important in the development of obstructive sleep apnea, and patients have a reduction both in tonic and phasic contraction of these muscles during sleep when compared to normal persons. So arousal plays an important role in the termination of each apnea, but may also continue to the development of further apnea. So this repetitive cycle is nothing but obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So because of the reduction and respiratory drive related to the hypocapnia, which results from post-apneic hyperventilation, a cylindrical pattern of repetitive obstructive apneas may result, and a better understanding of these integrated pathophysiology of the OSA should help in the development of new therapeutic techniques. Okay, so what are the sleep patterns in obstructive sleep apnea? So, as we all know, the normal stages of sleep, that is, stage 1 is non REM sleep, is the changeover from wakefulness to the sleep. And stage 2, it's also a non REM sleep, that means non rapid eye movement sleep, is a period of light sleep before you enter deep sleep. So, stage 3, it also contains non-REM sleep, is the period of deep sleep that you need to feel refreshed in the morning. So REM sleep is the one in which these obstructive sleep apnea patterns are found. So it first occurs about 90 minutes after falling asleep. So here, during the deep stages of sleep, stage 3 and 4 and REM, most obstructive events occur and the muscles are most relaxed in these stages of sleep. So as I told, 3 and 4, okay. So the OSA patients mainly have less deep sleep of stages of 1 and 2. Okay, due to these restless sleep patterns, these patients are deprived of deep sleep and have daytime somnolence. So, the obstructive sleep apnea patients have quick onset of sleep and multiple arousals. So the successful treatment of OSA results in the increase in REM sleep. Okay, there lies the result. So, okay, before going to obstructive sleep apnea in children, okay, I would like to add a little more to these sleep patterns. So, starting in the NREM, non-rapid eye movement sleep stage 1 and 2, we'll see alpha waves are replaced by theta waves and sleep spindles and K complexes emerge in stage 2, and stage 3 and 4 are described as a slow wave sleep that is marked by the predominance of delta waves. So, there lies our sleep patterns in OSA. So, now we'll go into a topic and about obstructive sleep apnea in children. So as I already discussed, it's the most common cause is adenotonsillar hypertrophy in children. So what are the clinical features? They are the consequences of sleep disturbances. What are they? They are the episodes of apnea, too much loud snoring, chronic mouth breathing, which results to halitosis, interrupted sleep with frequent awakening and nightmares, hypersomnolence, poor school or work performance, dysphagia, hyponasal speech, rhinolilia clausa, failure to thrive, enuresis, obesity. These all clinical features suggest that the child is suffering from this obstructive sleep apnea. How do we diagnose it in children? So, we'll diagnose through polysomnography. So, this polysomnography is required in children only where OSA is not associated with adenotonsillar hypertrophy. Remember this point. And what are the indications for polysomnography before adenotonsillectomy? So, these guidelines were suggested in 2011 American Academy of Otolaryngology Head and Neck Surgery, AAOH-HNS guidelines. So, what are they? Craniofacial anomalies, obesity, Down syndrome, neuromuscular disease, mucopolysaccharidosis, sickle cell anemia, and discordant history and physical examination. So, what are the indications for preoperative investigations and special post-operative care in regard to children with OSA? It's given by UK Multidisciplinary Working Party. So, what are the indications? The child age should be less than 2 years and weight less than 15 kgs. Obesity, his failure to thrive, mucopolysaccharidosis, obstructive sleep apnea uncertain, that is severe OSA, hypotonia or neuromuscular disorders, moderate or severe, craniofacial anomaly, significant comorbidities such as ASA 3 or above, normal ECG or electrocardiography, cerebral palsy, which is in very severe state, and Down syndrome with difficult airway. And how do we treat of chronic adenotonsillar hypertrophy in children? So, starting the medical, these measures may cure early disease without resort to surgery. That is, breathing exercises, decongested saline or steroid nasal drops, antihistaminics, antibiotics, management of any associated nasal allergy, and the one and only surgical method is adenotonsillectomy. So I didn't include here the treatment and diagnosis part of obstructive sleep apnea in adults. So I'll be going to upload in the further videos. So stay tuned. And that's it. Thank you. Hope it's useful. And if you like the video, please like it, share the content to your needful friends, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.